was going to be about the Phase 5 and the Phase 6. There was even a Phase 7 and a Phase 8. I'm just going to explain the history of it a little bit. So essentially in 1976, I think, we'll have to check the drawings, Brian Rossi, who was chief designer at Ford on and off, a program manager, a Brit, said, Wayne, there's talk of bringing the HO back. How about designing the GTHO Phase 5 Falcon, which was, a red rag to a bull. The designers had already been messing around with putting Phase 5 on XB coupes and, they idolised, they were designing cars to be involved with GTHOs at Ford. That was kind of the hero car. They all wanted to be a part of it. So Dad draws up some designs and they weren't sure whether they're going to go with box flares or arch flares for the Group C category in motor racing. Dad even went to the extent of building a scale model in the wind tunnel at RMIT using the box flares. It was a blue model. It's since long gone, unfortunately. After that model was built, CAMS did a few things. One, they decided it had to be arch flares. Holden went through all this too. They wanted to keep faithful to the production part of the motor racing program. It was a production car racing category. So they said, get rid of the bonnet fins. They're not on the production car. Get rid of the roof spoiler. We're going to allow flares because we want to run bigger wheels for the race cars. And the rear wing, there can't be a gap between the wing and the deck lid. So Dad used a Cortina ducktail wing that they were working on. Edsel Ford had told Moffat that Ford will support a team with the XD Falcon. But in 1979, along comes Peter Brock and humiliates Ford, really. I mean, that was an embarrassing moment. It wasn't easy being a Ford fan then. He won by 6 laps, broke the lap record on the final lap. Ford just couldn't risk racing the XD. It was untested. My father was untested. Lot 6 was long gone. They dropped out of motor racing. And Moffat subsequently had already been talking to Mazda, and off he went. So, see you, Moffat. Dad's hopes and dreams of being involved in motor racing go up in flames. The closest he ever got until that stage was doing the stripes on Alan's cars. So he's devastated, as you would be. So that was that. Now in this part, I'm going to be careful of how much I say because, as some of you know, I've got a pretty major Aussie TV series in the making about this very topic and what happened and how my father and Bob McWilliam and a bunch of rogues in the Ford Design Centre and the plant homologated the XD Falcon to get it onto the track. So we know they did, and you'll have to watch the TV series to figure out how, because it's fucking amazing. During this whole homologation process, he was talking with Murray Carter at great length and Gary Wilmington, who was going through a similar process himself. And Gary Wilmington, Murray Carter, Bob McWilliam, they helped each other out. They shared information. In fact, Dad and Bob used Murray Carter's workshop down near Southland in Melbourne to build the cars. And while Murray Carter's race car was the first built, Gary's XD Falcon was the first to race. And it did okay. It was a good race car. It was light for such a massive car, which was a curious thing. It was actually Murray Carter's best year. I may be wrong, Murray Carter fans, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty sure it was Murray Carter's best year to date in 1980 in the XD Falcon. I'm pretty sure he told me that. but there were just a few drivers, most of with Moffat gone, it didn't have a huge look in, really. Murray did quite well, but Brock dominated again in the championship. But meanwhile, up in Brizzy, there's an Aussie battler by the name of Dick Johnson building his XD race car, homologated by Wayne Draper, Bob McWilliam and Murray Carter. He's building it in his back shed in Brizzy, and he's about to change Australian motor racing forever. So it was called a Phase 5 in honour of the Ford lineage. And not only that, but that's what it would have been called if Ford stayed in motor racing. So when people say, it was a half-assed effort to capitalise on the Phase 1, 2, 3, 4 name, it wasn't. And when people say HO or Phase Autos was a half-assed effort to compete with HDT, it wasn't. Dad was full-time at Ford. It just wasn't an option. Ford were out of motor racing. He really was not allowed to be doing this, which you'll see in the TV show. He risked everything. He threatened to be fired. Brian Rossi multiple times said, "I'll fucking fire you unless you drop that car." The road-going Phase 5 is basically what Dad wanted the race car to look like if regulations weren't an issue. So he put all the bits on it. The Fairlane guards was a looky-like that was a point of difference. Cams allowed Phase Autos and Holden to sell a 2-inch flared version of the car, which was a bit more practical for the market. So it was a matter of, if Ford aren't going to do it, we will. So the Phase 5, it was in honour of the Ford lineage. It was a positive thing. It wasn't, they were never production cars. So we'll never claim that the HO Phase 5 was a Ford production car. Never have, never will. We're proud that it wasn't. We see it as Aussie grit on wheels, is what I like to say, because it was built by Ford fans. It was never built for profit. It was built to keep Ford on the racetrack, and it was named Phase 5 because they were fans, and it was going to be a Phase 5 anyway. I really don't see what the big deal is. And then the XE, the one I'm sitting in at the moment, that was the Phase 6, and by then Cams didn't make Dad and Bob sell 25 body kits or the components because, they were never going to ask Dick Johnson to leave the track. Ford were back, Ford were there to stay, and the rules were relaxed. And in truth, I'm not sure how stringent they were in the first place, but Cam certainly wanted to see the numbers, and they wanted to see the sales. Ford did allow the Phase 5 to be a dealership special. It's on Ford's books. Because they wanted to keep Ford on the racetrack. It didn't cost them anything to be there. In the end, it just ended up being a pretty quick car. How it was so light and not too far off the Commodore, but twice the size, some people may know, others won't. But we're definitely going to go into that in the TV series. I'm sorry I can't go into it in great detail, but I don't want to ruin it. Back to Phase Autos. HO wanting to, and Dad, Bob McWilliam, wanting to compete with Brock and HDT. There was no Moffat, so there was no brand name to hang your hat on. I remember Dad saying that multiple times, and certainly if Ford had come to Dad and Bob and said, "Look, we're going to back you and help you out, and let's compete with HDT," I'm sure they would have given it a go, but Ford never did. So they never took that prospect seriously. To me, it's way cooler than the real ones. It's cooler than a production model that doesn't have matching numbers in it and all that kind of shit, but great. It was built in with no money. It was a clandestine operation, and it was the only thing they had to fuel their fire was just passion for motor racing. It's a Phase 5, guys, deal with it. And there's a Phase 6. And there's a Phase 7. The Phase 7, I'll get into that maybe in another video. That never quite eventuated. There's a few of them out there though. And the Phase 8, I think there's one of those. And this is a really cool image actually. It's the XE, the Phase 6 red, and it was a proposal to Moffat because he was having trouble putting a car together. The rotary was, being blocked by cams, and so the Mazda deal for Moffat looked like it was going to fall through. So Dad took the a red, in honor of the Phase 3, a red Falcon to him, saying, come on, come back to Fort, race this, come on, come on, come on. And couldn't quite entice him back. So that's the basic rundown. We've had a look at some images. I hope you found it interesting. I've told you the story. Please argue it out in the comments. And the passion either side's cool. And sorry to annoy people all the time with the Phase 5 thing, but it's said with gratitude and love and passion for the motor racing heritage that that HO's associated with.